Klatt is normally going to be with us on Mondays at 10:25, so he'll break down the weekend that was. But he has got 2 games this week, and it created a crazy week for Klatt. So he's joining us from the road in Minnesota.
Yes.
What is up, Klatt? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Man, doing awesome.
And it's finally here. I know we had games last week, but it was just like a little appetizer for the main course this week. Although, and Dunaway, I think that you're going to back me up on this because you do that whole chart all the time about the week. What a terrible week of games.
It is.
Yeah, this is a disappointing week 1. I do not disagree with Klatt.
At least we've got 4 or 5 really good games, though, Klatt.
But you're right. You're right. Why am I throwing a wet blanket on what is an amazing? You're right.
No, that is a Dunaway comment. 100%.
Yeah, you and Dunaway.
But to your point on our handy dandy sheet here, on that first window, I will be locked into Colorado TCU on Fox on Saturday.
Playing up to
No,
I'm with you too. I want to see Coach
I'll have
Prime.
Virginia, Tennessee, just to see that on one window. Struggling to find a third game. I may go Fresno State, Purdue there. I may go Peacock, East Carolina, and Michigan, just to see what that looks like. Michigan. But main TV will be Colorado and TCU. Because there's been some discussion. There's been some discussion. That's where my audio is too on main TV. There's been some discussion about the Louis that Deion took with him to Boulder, Colorado. How good is his roster,
fellas? What are you guys doing? What are you doing? You're just like trying to stir the pot, trying to take your show viral.
Well, it's Luganville. It's more Luganville.
We didn't do anything.
Yeah, blame Luganville.
Hey, you can double down and help us go more viral,
That's
though.
right.
Is it the worst roster in college football?
Double down. Listen.
Simple question.
I've thought about this.
Worst roster in college football.
That was objectively false. He knows better than that. He is better than that. That was a ridiculous statement that he made on your show. Totally objectively false. You can back it up with data, or you can go to practice. Apparently he did neither, which is maddening. Tom's better than that. And I hope he hears this, because that's ridiculous what he said. Let's just by the data itself, okay? Colorado brought in 51 transfers, which is an astronomical amount, astronomical. And largely based on the volume of transfers, they finished number 1 in the transfer portal based on 24/7. Now, even if you go and you parse that out in terms of kind of like per player rating, they finished in the top 38 in the transfer portal alone. In the incoming freshman class recruiting rankings, they finished 29th. They have a composite just last year. And again, that's another 21. So now you're talking about 72 players on a roster where it's in the top 30 in the country from what everyone brought in last year. That is objective information. So what he said was ridiculous. He should retract it. And he was just saying it for likes, apparently. Everyone has a Prime effect, all right? You either love Prime or you hate Prime. But what was said on your show was garbage.
I will tell you this. Here was my question. Was Virginia, Tennessee, Colorado, and TCU looks good on paper, but I would assume there is, or I said I think there's talent gap between Colorado and TCU and Virginia and Tennessee. They may not be close games. And that's how we got in.
Then he should have answered that question and not compared him to UMass and the roster. It might be the worst roster in college football. It's the dumbest thing he's ever said, and he's better than that.
What will Colorado look like on your game on Saturday against TCU, who I project will be closer to a third or fourth place Big 12 team this year, not a national championship game Big 12 team?
Probably. I think that we can assume, if you take this like both of those, okay, so let's answer the TCU side of that. TCU, I like what TCU, I like what Sonny has done. I think we all do. He's done a great job in the transfer portal. They've recruited well. They've got some really good players that a lot of the fans down there in Alabama are going to be familiar with that were at Alabama that just didn't pan out, for whatever reason. And listen, that happens when you're at a place, with that many people. or that many great players. So he brings some of those guys that were, DFW guys back in. Trey, I think is one of those guys. JoJo, one of those guys. I think that TCU, it would be pretty wild for us to think that they could replicate what happened last year, because there were a few things that happened that are just like, you cannot rely on them. One is they stayed remarkably healthy, in particular from their starters, on a team that wasn't particularly that deep. And two is they won every close game that they got into. Like except for the Big 12 championship game in Dallas against Kansas State, which you can argue, they made a bit of a coaching error right there at the end and didn't give Max the ball at the goal line and probably could have had a chance to win that game there late. They won every single close game, and then they lose the guy, Max Duggan, who played so well in all of those close games. So regardless of how much deeper you think you are or how much talent that they've amassed, it's really hard to believe that they could repeat what they did a year ago. So I think that it's fair to say that TCU will take, or we can expect them to take, a little bit of a step back. All right, so that's TCU. Colorado was 1-11 last year. They lost by an average of 29. 29. That's a staggering amount, guys. Let's just put it this way. Northwestern was also 1-11. They lost by an average of 14. So basically Colorado was twice as worse as the next worst team in the Power Five. They needed to clean house. They have brought in a substantially better roster. There's going to be 90 new players at Colorado, 90. There are only 9 scholarship players remaining from a year ago. Everyone, seems to think that that's some sort of bad thing. I actually think when you look at a 1-11 team that lost by an average of 29, that's necessary. Just to give you some sense, like, this is not unprecedented. Nebraska has 68 new players. I'm about to do their game on Thursday night. So, and that team certainly wasn't as bad as Colorado. Colorado at the skill positions, at least their starters. Now, this is going to be a very thin team, and it's going to be a very talented team on the outside. They are as good as any top-end conference team at the skill positions out there. Okay, their wide receivers are going to be really good. Their running backs, it's actually a really deep room, probably the strength of their team. Their linebackers and defensive backs, their safeties, their corners, like, they can play at those areas. The question remains up front, what they're going to be, what the depth is going to be up front. How can they mask some inefficiencies on their offense and defensive line, which, quite frankly, is a similar question that a lot of teams have this time of year, because there's only a small select few number of teams that can look at the line of scrimmage and say, yeah, we're ready to go for a college football year up at the line of scrimmage. That's going to be the question for Colorado. And certainly, everyone's got an opinion, but that one was really bad.
Back to Nebraska and the game you've got tomorrow night. You mentioned TCU's close wins. Well, Nebraska, again, one of those seasons, 4-8, but 5 of those losses by 1 possession or less. Yeah. You say 68, 69 new faces. I saw 63. It's a lot. Jeff Sims is going to be the starting quarterback for Matt Rhule. My question, though, we all remember a day where Nebraska dominated college football. Yeah. I don't think we'll ever get back there, Joel, but Matt Rhule, a guy that did it at Temple, a guy that did it at Baylor, 4th coach now in 10 years for Nebraska. If he can't do it, I don't think anybody can do it.
I agree with you, especially with his track record of fixing places that you're like, that's not going to work. There's no reason you should really win at Temple. He did it. I think Baylor has bounced back so quickly. Don't you feel like there's a sense that we forget what it actually was? I mean, do we remember the Al Grobe year? Right? Like, guys, I thought Baylor was going down the SMU track, which was like almost close to death penalty. They aren't going to be good for, decades track. And he went in there, and by year 3, they were winning double-digit games. I'm with you. You're sensing the hesitation in my voice, and it's not that I don't believe in Matt. It's just that I was so confident that Scott Frost was going to work.
Right.
So Nebraska fans continue to be like, you said this the last time. And so, I don't know what to say. I love what their staff is doing. I like the team that they're putting together. It's the roster is not complete by any stretch. Their wide receiver core needs a lot of work. I'm interested to see what Jeff Sims does at quarterback. I do like their running backs, and we're going to see a very throwback style. You know, they're not going to be in the spread. I laugh because it's like I said, if there were some words, some adjectives, some, you know, like what are the descriptors you would want me to use on Thursday night for your offense? And they were like, oh, well, like first word they use, deliberate.
That sounds slow.
Okay.
Deliberate.
That sounds slow.
Very athletic.
So we're going to see like a very deliberate. They're like, we want to bring back the huddle, and and they're going to try to like go back, you know, which is interesting, especially when you see the success that, let's say, a team like Michigan has had going back, you know, and like, hey, let's put it back in the hands of the offensive line. So it's fascinating. We'll see if it works out.
Opposite you. So Joel Klatt is with us. He is with us all year, courtesy of mybookie.ag. Do not forget code next round for that welcome bonus when you go to mybookie.ag. Also a chip you can use at the MyBookie Casino. Mybookie.ag, code next round. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline like all of our guests. You will see Gus, Jenny on the 7 o'clock Fox game, Nebraska at Minnesota. Opposite you, Utah is hosting Florida on ESPN, and Cam Rising.
Be a good one.
It should be, and Cam Rising continues to be a mystery in this game. Do you have a lean on whether or not he will play? And if he does not, what does that do to Utah?
I mean, I haven't expected him to play in this game like all offseason. The fact that we're still in this and like it's a question, I'm like, really? It is? Like, I did not think we would be at this place. Kyle doesn't give out information, though. So it's like, let's just say I would be surprised if Cam Rising plays in this game. Now, if he does, good for him. And I want to see him back and healthy. I think you guys would echo those sentiments.
Oh, sure.
Good player,
Yeah.
Really good player. Did you know quietly, Utah was a top 15 scoring offense last year? 38 a game. You know, you wouldn't expect that from Utah. You think, oh, it's defense, it's run game. Like, they can play, and a lot of that is Cam Rising, and I think that they're going to be good again this year. Here's my take on this game. Utah has got to win this game. They have to win this game. They have won their conference 2 years in a row. They are a standard bearer in the Pac-12, in a conference in which a lot of us, and I think you guys would echo these sentiments, we think there are definitely 4, maybe 5 really good teams, top 20 caliber teams in America, right? And the 5th of those being Oregon State. A lot of people nationally don't know about Oregon State. That's a good football team, won 10 games a year ago, and Jonathan Smith is a great coach. You got Oregon, you got Washington, you got USC, you've got Utah, you've got Oregon State. This is a year that the Pac-12 could foreseeably see themselves get a berth into this 4-team playoff as they're having their swan song year. You know, this is the best year we've seen out there for a long time. Well, when that happens, you cannot lose to a team in Florida that is clearly in a rebuild, that is clearly middle at best in the SEC this year, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, probably
Yes.
middle at best. I would say Florida's middle at best, yeah.
Maybe yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
I don't know what to
maybe-
expect. I said,
I mean-
you know, Joel, if they come out and they're 9-3, it wouldn't blow me away. If they're 3-9, it wouldn't blow me
They're
away.
a pretty
I'm
big
sure.
mystery, yeah, there's no doubt.
And it's that type of conference, right? And they're in that situation where it's like they're going to be in 5 games that they could win, could lose. So I'm with you. But the point being, if you're Utah and you've got them in your building at night, you're considered one of the standard bearers of your conference. This is so important for the Pac-12. This is important for Utah. They have to win this game, whether Cam Rising plays or not. They should be better at the line of scrimmage, I think, than Florida. So that's where I see this game, is that I think that Kyle Whittingham is going to he's going to get this, and I think that's why he's playing it so close to the vest, because he understands the importance of this. They're favored, they should be, and they need to win.
All right, he is Joel Klatt. Just hearing your voice again makes it feel so good that it is football season. That was kind of a weird statement from one guy to another, but I think Klatt knows what I mean. Nebraska, Minnesota, didn't mean to make you uncomfortable there at the end.
At least we don't FaceTime. I know that this is kind of FaceTime, but
Yeah.
like just a rule of thumb, like guys don't FaceTime other guys.
Yeah.
Just don't do that. Don't be like, don't just FaceTime a buddy.
Boy, I'm with you on that one. That may be worth little T doing a Bud Light poll. Do dudes FaceTime other
No,
dudes?
of course not. We get into this. Leinart always tries to FaceTime all of us, and we're like, hey, stop it. And he's always wearing a tank top. And it's like, come on, bro.
Yeah, you should answer him shirtless and see what he says back.
Hey, fella. I was waiting on this call.
What up, big guy?
Hey.
7 o'clock tomorrow night, Fox, Klatt fully closed. We'll see about Leinart. Hey, enjoy the game. We'll talk to you Monday. Cannot wait to see it tomorrow night.
Yeah, love it.
Tell Jenny
Enjoy
I
it,
said
guys.
hi.
Have a great weekend.
All right, buddy. See you. That is Joel Klatt with us. He is joining us all season long, normally Mondays at 10:25 to recap the weekend, but had to bump it up this week because of his travel schedule. He is with us courtesy of MyBookie.ag. MyBookie.ag code next round gets you that welcome bonus, a chip you can use at the casino. That parlay deal where you win the first 2 legs of a 3-leg parlay and you're like, boy, I do not want to sweat out Hawaii trying to cover the number late at night. Cash it out right there at MyBookie.ag. They offer that. Go see more. MyBookie.ag code next round.